So the MS in Black and African Americans documentary, whose exclusive in-person premiere will take place here tonight, explores health inequities and experiences of Black and African American communities living with MS.
Yeah.
You were diagnosed with MS in 2007, your junior year of college. Can you describe your first symptoms and the journey leading up to your diagnosis?
I want the words scared and terrified to be something that are at the forefront, because I did not understand that my body was actually giving me hints, and most people don't know that. My body had been going through the process of being fatigued. I went to trainers actually letting them know that my body was not as quick to recover. I felt lethargic. I felt tired a lot leading up. And so last football game of the season, 2007, BYU. The game is over. I go to sleep that night, and I wake up the next morning, and literally I fall to the floor. Instead of rising to my feet, I fell to the floor, paralysis down the right side of my body. I quickly have a neck-jerking twitch, slurred speech. The two immediate reactions are scared and completely terrified. And that began my introduction to multiple sclerosis. And so as people are watching the documentary, I think it's imperative that this moment gives them insight to know that I was no superhuman, that I had emotions of like, what in the world is going on with my body? I can't figure this out. So I mean it when I tell you, like, scared, terrified. Those are the two words that best describe my introduction to multiple sclerosis.
And how soon after that day, falling out of bed, how soon after that did you actually receive your diagnosis of MS?
So I think that's the blessing for me, which is why the documentary is so incredibly important, because I think it displays the power of what can potentially happen to you if you are able to get diagnosed. It helps. I was getting MRIs a week and a half after I was diagnosed. I was getting a spinal tap a week and a half after I was diagnosed, not after, so let me reframe it. I was getting a spinal tap, and I was receiving MRIs a week and a half after leading myself to the neurologist's office. That is extremely quick. I was blessed to be an athlete that had the opportunity to have adequate care immediately. And so I got a diagnosis very quick, which is important, and it's why the documentary is everything, because it showcases what can potentially happen, how you can save yourself if you get diagnosed earlier. That's my road. And then the spinal taps, the MRIs, you're talking about overall about a 2-week process of learning that I have MS after my relapses really hit me and take place. That is extremely quick. I really feel like and believe that getting diagnosed so early was the reason that a plan was able to be put in place to really and truly help me on this journey with multiple sclerosis. Taking a level of being misdiagnosed and turning that around to getting diagnosed is incredible. It can make all the world of a difference. And so many of us, we are misdiagnosed so frequently. This is what happens when you can get diagnosed early.
So it sounds like you were really lucky in your diagnostic process.
Yes.
Was there any way that you felt that being a Black man impacted that diagnostic process? And if so, how?
I will never forget, and this is honesty. I want to take you and give you like a window seat into my heart of what it was like going into that neurology office. As soon as I go in, I sit down and an elderly white woman says to me, "What are you doing here?" I come in there with a limp. I come in there with a neck-jerking twitch, and I'm dragging my right foot. I sit down, and an elderly white woman says to me, "What are you doing here?" So now I'm terrified and scared even more so, because now somebody who's here probably for the same thing that I'm getting ready to walk into is telling me, "What are you doing here?" So now I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to expect, but I know what I'm about to walk into is definitely not good news. it's not about to be a good thing. So when I came to the neurologist's office, this is where it got crazy. When I came into the neurology office, her back was turned to me. And when she saw me, her eyes jumped. As a person of color, I'm learning to read people's body language very well. I was taught that, how to read a room, how to read people, how to read interaction, which will gauge your conversation. Her eyes jumped. And so now I'm looking from a black male perspective. I knew that it was an anomaly. I knew that this was going to be like a very unique case. And then as you get the information and learn that there weren't many of us, it ended up being the thing that caused me to even more try to be proactive and be more visible. To make a change. To do something different. To help be something that will encourage black men to try to watch their health a little bit differently. It was going down a path of just, we're not existent in the data and in the research. And hearing that, that's a problem because of the way it's spreading into our community. So going in as a black man, it's a feeling I don't want others to have to go through. To feel like you're alone, that others aren't diagnosed with this like you are. I don't ever want another brother to be in that position again. I also feel like it was a uniqueness in my case because of it, and maybe a catalyst to try to narrow the field and really focus more attention on this certain population,
And in what ways has the perception of MS being a disease that mainly affects white women, how has that impacted your experience in the years since your diagnosis?
I'm on fire, honey. I mean this in all, that is a sense of reason for being, to be a part of the change, to tell the story. And that's why the documentary was so important, to share the story, to let other men of color, other people of color know, you're not the only one who has erectile dysfunction. You aren't the only one who's ever felt ashamed or feels like you have to hide what you have in the dark because you are so worried about how things are going to be perceived. And so now it's like being on the front lines. You got to share it. You got to create visibility, because when you create visibility, it allows people to not feel alone. So when I think about everything that has come full circle and the doors that are opening with this documentary, the conversations that are going to be had, it is all a part of leaving things better than the way that you found them. Because at the end of the day, MS or not, I feel like that's the duty for us as people, to just try to see a problem, to see a glitch in a system, and try to be a part of the change. Because we can all sit back and complain all day. But at the end of the day, I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, well, what am I going to do with this something that I have? And if it really means that much to me to not let another man or woman walk through the door and walk through my scenario and hopefully they can be impacted by getting diagnosed a little bit earlier, being at the forefront of a conversation, because a documentary like this is creating conversations all across the country about what it's like to be diagnosed with MS as a black person in this country. That, my friend, is leaving things better than the way that I found them. And I can lay my head at my pillow at night on rest on that. Mm-hmm.
I think that answer sort of leads into my next question, but I'll ask it in case you have anything you want to add.
Yeah.
You've been an active advocate for MS awareness, serving as the ambassador for the National MS Society, and launching the Educate, Elevate, Collaborate initiative, among several other roles in the community. So what do you hope to achieve with those outreach efforts?
I hope that for people, the discussions about black people with MS within this country, that by me being proactive, that by us coming together with the medical professionals and us sharing our perspective as patients, all those things with this documentary, everything that I am about, I hope that it creates a level playing field where people will change from hearing and get on basis with listening. And I want to break that down because, see, when you hear a person, there's no action behind the words that people put before you. But when a person takes the time to listen to the words that are spoken, to the energy that is given through the words of either myself or anybody who is a patient advocate or anybody who's a medical professional who wants to be on the front lines to go against and be a bridge over troubled water for this disease, that it can be changed from people who will just hear our outcries to listening with intent and action behind what we are doing. Because it's not enough to hear our cries. It's not enough to hear about the equity issues. It's not enough to hear about the misdiagnosis things that take place. We now have to move towards action. Like, what are we going to do about it? So I wake up every day because I got to do something about it. So it's a great story, right? It's great perspectives that people get to hear. Great articles that they get to read. But will you take it upon yourself and put action behind those things? Because until we all do those things, black, brown, green, yellow, or purple, the needle won't move. Misdiagnosis in our community will still continue to be a problem. We need a greater level of awareness behind things like taking part in clinical study. I took part in clinical trials. If I don't tell people about that, if we don't talk about those things, then other people who are diagnosed in our community, they won't know that it's okay to try to trust somebody. That the healthcare system is not what it once was, that it is getting a little bit better. It's not perfect. We still got a long way to go. But when you hear and when you listen, when you change it to listening, then we combat all of those things. We make it okay for members of our community to feel like they can sign up for a clinical trial and not be worried about things of our past that have harmed us and hurt us and caused us to not trust. And move from catastrophic healthcare to being more proactive. Not waiting till our limbs don't function. Not waiting to where we can't walk. Not waiting to where not waiting till we're in the wheel till it's too late. All of those things are huge puzzle pieces to making us put forth the change. That's what I'm about. That's what this documentary is about. It all plays a pivotal role in this. All of it.
And in the next, say, 10 years, what changes do you hope to see that might make life with MS easier for black patients?
Hey, come on. When you walk into an office, let's see some pamphlets that look like us. let's see some families. I think one of the most beautiful things I ever saw on my journey was like coming across Montel Williams, and I knew that Montel Williams had a family. What that did for me was it showed me that I could be loved. It's not the death sentence for you. I'm sure you've heard that quote left and right. But I think when you can see or hear more stories about people being loved, it brings forth the opportunity in the next couple of years that MS is a part of our discussion within our community, like diabetes is, like sickle cell, like high blood pressure, like high cholesterol, that is a part of our discussion, and MS is not so much of this outlandish thing that we've never heard of. That people don't have to discuss their symptoms as if it's like speaking a foreign language. All of those things are a part, like we discussed, because we've gone from hearing to listening. That medical professionals are allowing an allotted opportunity for a patient to come into the office and totally get things out of their system. To see me. Don't see the disease. Don't see the past. See me as a patient. Don't hold back the opportunities that maybe new therapies present because you feel like I may be remnants of a previous patient that you may have had. I can be different. So don't hold back with me because of what you've heard or what you may have seen in the past. Like, we got to work through this together. Walk confidently in that. Walk boldly in that. And then in 10 years, because it's been so much discussed in our community, we're leading to earlier diagnosis, and the gap has changed from misdiagnosis. Right? And we see people who have who are living with MS, who are doing everything that they've always wanted to do. That the needle didn't have to stop because they got diagnosed early. In 10 years, those are the stories. But they all start with love. It starts with love. Love for what a person does. Love for who they are as an individual. Love for a patient. Love. I hope that through the documentary and everybody's story being introduced, that it will be the catalyst for love, and it changes how things are in this country and across the world for the next 10 years. Not a secret remedy, not a secret formula. Just love. Just love.
And what message do you hope people watching the MS in Black and African Americans documentary will ultimately take away from it?
We're all on that stage because our ancestors prayed for us. We're there having conversations amongst people because individuals who came before us had that thought process that maybe one day we'll speak freely, we'll speak boldly, that a door is being opened up to us that was never once allotted, but now here it is. And not only is it allotted, but we're part of a community that is leaving the door open as we are walking through on the greater blessings with this disease. Because it's not enough to, Tyler gets it right, Tyler gets the care, Tyler's doing okay, Tyler has a family. What are we doing to hold the door open so the same things can be allotted to people? That Dr. Mitzi is a neurologist, that you got Dr. Sophia, that you have somebody like Don who's advocating. Doors are being opened. And we're on stage saying, well, not only is this opportunity being presented to us, but the door is being held open for you to take this thing further than you could have ever imagined in our community. That you're valued, that you are important, and that you matter. That we see you. Those are the words that come to mind and the takeaways that I want people to have in their hearts. I see him. I see Don. I see Tyler. I see Dr. Mitzi. I see Sophia. And now I'm going to do something about it. It's time. No more sitting on our hands. We've talked about this enough. Now we got to do something about it. Be a part of the change. Be a part of it.
Is there anything else that you feel is important to mention or you'd like to expand upon?
There's a lot. I could talk to you forever. Honestly, it is with the documentary, I hope that people will hold the word hope near and dear to their heart. I hope that people see the needle moving forward. And for individuals who are newly diagnosed, if you can cling to hope, that's something that may be the potential thing that you need more than anything. And I think that's a lot of what you hear from the stories of the documentaries, especially from Don and I, is a person who are being on the forefront and always fighting and continuing to hope and not standing stagnant with the disease. Because when you have hope, hope is something that creates room for determination, right? Determination is something that leads to a positive attitude. Like if a person is determined to advocate for their health, they're always hoping that things will get better. And you have a positive attitude about that. And when you have a positive attitude, there's no limit to your altitude as a human being. Those are the things that hope brings forth. That's what the documentary is pushing. We're all coming together from different backgrounds, and we are hoping to be part of change that makes things better. And when you have hope, you have everything. So I think that alongside love, I would put the word hope next to the message that is being conveyed from this documentary. You have those two things, you got something special, and you are unstoppable, regardless of what your limbs look like, regardless of the cognitive memory issues that you face, regardless of the erectile dysfunction issues that you may be going through as a male. I've been there. If you can just have hope and love, you're on the recipe to creating a new you with the disease that you live. And sometimes that's all you can need. And best part about it is those things are free. They don't cost you a dime. Love and hope. That's it.